Hi, Morgan. Nice seeing you today.
You as well.
Thanks for coming in. I know that you wanted some career counseling so far as where you're currently at with your career. And I also appreciate you completing the informed consent form. So, with that being said, where are you currently at in your career path?
I feel like I'm kind of at this like crossroads where I have a lot of different directions that I could go in.
Mhm.
Because right now I have my bachelor's in psychology and anthropology.
Mhm.
Um, So like within that, I've always been interested in like forensics. So I did some like internship kinds of deals when I was in my undergrad. I graduated 2019, so it's been like 5 years since then, and I really want to get back into school and start pursuing a master's degree. But I'm trying to kind of specifically narrow down what I want to get out of that and what my career path would be moving forward with that.
Okay. Do you know like what you would want your master's degree in?
Some type of psychology, but
Hmm. Okay.
yeah, within that, it's like, do I want to get some type of therapy licensure, like LPC, LMFT, social work, or do I want to go more of like a forensics path with that too? Because that's always kind of been like the split. Because yeah, in my undergrad, I was doing anthropology specifically for forensics anthropology, which is like analyzing like human remains and seeing, like if you look at someone's femur and they broke their femur, you'll be able to see that in their bone, so it can help identify people.
Okay. Yeah.
So I guess like what I was interested in with that is there's like a massive forensics space on Oahu where I was going to school. And in that lab, they send over a bunch of fallen soldiers' remains from like World War II, which are now bones.
Right.
And basically comparing their bones to their medical history is how you can like essentially return soldiers home even this far out.
Okay.
So it's like, do I want to do that or do I want to jump in and start doing, like therapy with people?
Well, it seems like you have like a pretty clear like interest or like passion about like the forensic side, right? Would you say that's accurate?
Yeah, definitely. Like I'm very interested in it, and that's something that I want to do. But I also want to be a therapist at the same time, and that's kind of the field that I've been in since I graduated.
Okay.
Yeah, so like pre-graduation and post for like a year, I was working in a private practice at like the front desk of a psychiatric facility. It
Okay.
was just like a day clinic. Um,
How'd you enjoy that experience? I feel like that was like helpful in figuring out if that's like something you feel like would be a good fit for you.
I think so, but it also made me realize that like I don't want to be like on like the front lines. Like I don't want to be the first point of contact necessarily.
Mhm.
And I'd rather, be talking to people like about, their feelings and what they're going through and helping them navigate that within themselves than asking for their insurance information or if they need a refill on medication.
So, what exactly do you mean by point of contact? Go back. You wouldn't prefer to be the point of contact. So, what does that mean like to you in that respect?
Yeah, I don't like to be like on the front lines, I guess. So like I don't want to like work at a front desk or like in direct customer service. Like I'd like to be, I guess, more behind a wall
Okay.
than that. Like have somebody at the front desk that can then refer that person to you. Because then it's like if things get messed up, it's always the person in the front that kind of gets blamed. So then you have to deal with that fallout, even if it isn't necessarily your fault.
Okay. So, we would like to avoid situations where you're, well, we would like to avoid you being put in situations like that where like you're kind of being blamed or for something, right? Like front desk.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't know. There's something about just being like that first person,
Yeah.
that somebody interacts with when they enter a clinic, a restaurant, anything,
Mhm.
like that. I find very stressful, but I don't necessarily find dealing with like high risk situations stressful.
Okay, so then in contrast to the front desk, from a therapist, right, like perspective, it's like different.
Yeah, yeah, because it's, I'm helping that person, and the, I guess, expectation is that it's collaborative rather than I am providing a service for you, which is like what a front desk does.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to understand a little bit. Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about like your upbringing? Like, what was that like?
Like my childhood, or like what do you mean in terms of my upbringing?
Yeah, like who did you grow up with? Like, was mom and dad in the same household as you, or like, and what did they do?
Yeah, my mom has always just been stay at home. She hasn't worked. Before that, she worked as a server in restaurants. And then my dad is some type of financial advisor in wealth management. And has kind of just like worked up the food chain in that for like the past, I think, like, oh gosh, almost 30 years at this point. I've
Okay.
been doing that type of work.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So I ask him what he does, and I have no idea when he explains it to me.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of nodding.
I'm like, yep, you deal with numbers and people's money. Okay, and that's basically all I get.
Okay. Cool. No, I get it.
Yeah.
So, where do you feel you're at as far as like kind of figuring out your career? Like, do you feel confident where you're at right now? So I was like, what steps to take and like what route to specifically take?
I think so. But that being said, I feel like I'm just somebody who's generally kind of hesitant about making those big life decisions.
Mhm.
Yeah, because I like to be comfortable, and like moving around and doing new things is obviously, an uncomfortable experience, let's say. Um, so I think I'm in a good place. I'm kind of just like at the exploratory phase where it's like I, I'm looking into being a therapist, so it's figuring out which licensure, might be of interest to me, and then what schools I think I want to do online,
Mhm.
just because it's more affordable too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm just kind of in that phase, and then on top of that, it's like if I want to, move on to get my PhD or my PsyD, what master's program would allow me to just jump into that without having to go back and take classes. So it's like, working with those logistics and stuff too. And then, trying to be certain that I don't want to go into forensics necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So from what I can hear, you have a pretty good idea of some of the requirements for some licensures or maybe some of like the master's program. So you're kind of more in a place of shopping around.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just kind of looking around, seeing what there is, seeing what scholarships are available, just kind of like dipping my toes into like a bunch of different spots to see what's going to be the best fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's a great place to be in versus not knowing anything at all.
Yeah, because I've been trying to figure out more stuff to make it more comfortable, so I don't have to just like sit and like I want to do this, but I don't know anything about it, and it seems scary, so I've just been trying to do like little things.
Okay, that sounds good. And just to kind of rewind a little bit, I recall you kind of mentioning that like as far as you kind of describe yourself as like hesitant in regards to like how confident you feel as far as like continuing on in this process of kind of figuring things out. I was wondering if maybe you could describe your personality a little bit.
Yeah, I'm somebody who comes off as very sure of myself, but I feel like I constantly am kind of questioning like what I'm doing and if I'm making the right choices.
Okay.
That probably, I would think, just stems from like general anxiety I've kind of had throughout my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and just like being worried if I'm making, like the right choice for myself, if I'm doing the right thing for myself. So I think it's just like a lot of moral like checking in with myself and making sure, but then overthinking on top of that. Cause I definitely don't think it's like the most healthy thing.
Right,
So I acknowledge that, but I don't know. I guess in terms of a career, just making that big of a choice and then, the financial investment in
Right.
terms of, like how much it costs to go to school and then taking that time out of work as well to do that, so it's time and money,
Right.
and then making sure that it's what I want to do.
right, because it's an investment you're making, right? And like for some of those things, they're kind of more like the final side. Once you kind of decide, that's kind of it a little bit.
Definitely. Yeah. Like once you choose something, it's like 2 to 3 years of like, hey, this is what you're doing now. And this is the path that you're on. Going back to school after like 5 years is scary too. Because it's like, oh, do I know how to do this still? Can I write an essay? Like those funny things that cross your mind.
How did you do in your undergraduate program? Do you feel like you were
I think I did pretty well. I think I graduated with like a 3.2 overall.
pretty well indeed?
Yeah, so not bad, but I was also working full time while I was going to school full time, so it was just a lot. So I just didn't have any free time. So I'm
Right.
trying to kind of mentally prepare to go do that again
Right.
too. Mhm.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, it definitely sounds like you have the ability. What aspects are there of your personality that you feel like are like service strengths for you to be able to accomplish, goals such as figuring out what's the next step in your career?
Oh gosh, that's a big question. Um, I think like at the end of the day, like I know I can do it.
Okay.
So there's not like a hesitancy there. Like I don't necessarily think it's going to be like too difficult or too much. And if it is, then I can always, like drop a class or, go down a day of work, a day less of work a week.
Right. Right.
Like I
yeah.
can always kind of maneuver that to accommodate what my needs are. So I feel confident in that, that I'm able to do it. It's just making the right decision, I guess, that's kind of just lingering there of like,
Right.
I'm not sure, but
Right.
I know I can do it.
Adjustments can be made, right?
Yeah.
Might not be preferred, but it's always an option.
Yeah, definitely. So, yeah, I know I can adjust and maneuver when the time comes, but it's just leading up to it and taking that leap.
Okay. Thank you for that. I would like to kind of explore a little bit, or like some of the skills that you possess that you feel like are going to help you on this journey. Effective communication, attention to detail, logistics, any sort of thing like that. You feel like you're kind of having have a knack for.
Sure, I think I'm very organized, so I
Okay,
can
that's
like
important.
stay on top of things.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, like shopping around for schools and keeping all of those like notes, knowing, after talking to various counselors there,
Right.
seeing what the best fit's going to be, and then making sure I have those notes organized.
Okay, that's huge.
Yeah. So I think that's going to be helpful. Other than organization, I think probably just like determination because it's something that I really want to do.
Right. I mean, you can't accomplish anything without some level of determination.
Yeah, so I think I'm just like really driven to go back to school at this point in my life because I feel like I don't know, I've kind of hit all of the milestones that I've wanted to hit, and I feel somewhat sure enough to go back and do this and like make that investment.
Right.
And also just like at work, I look at therapists and I'm like, oh, I wish I was doing their job. So I
Right,
know
okay.
that like that in my head, I'm like, oh, okay, got it.
Yeah, it's
like,
a good indicator.
Yeah, when you're jealous of people that are doing the job you
Right. Yeah, I understand. And it sounds like you definitely have enough experience to really kind of figure out what aspects of the field of psychology you do enjoy versus ones that you don't.
Yeah, I think so. You know, like I've never worked with kids. I've never really interacted with kids, you know, so I know that that probably isn't going to be something that I lean into. I know I like working with adults. I was working at a facility that dealt with addiction, it was like a step down from psychiatric hospitalization.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, mainly the people or the demographic that was there was people that are houseless, and usually, unfortunately, also dealing with substance abuse issues. So I found I really enjoy working with that section of the population.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So would you say that's one population that serves as like a candidate for an area you'd like to focus on in your career?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. That's something that I thought about, especially when I was working at that job too.
Mhm. All right. I mean, that's good to know. All right. So those are all of that is like super useful information. Being as I wanted to kind of identify like key aspects of your personality, skills that you feel like you have, as well as some of the professional experiences that you've had. Um, there is this theory, Holland's theory, in which essentially this theory is saying that people can be categorized into six personality traits that kind of help determine what work environments are more aligned towards you, your personality, your skills, preferences, as well as the type of structured work environments that is. So this theory really focuses on six personality types. So I'm going to go over these six types with you and just kind of want you to just kind of listen and like see if you resonate with any of these traits. There's realistic, which prefers hands-on, practical physical activities. There's investigative, enjoys analyzing research, intellectual efforts. Artistic, values creativity, self-expression. There's social, uh, consists of helping, interacting with others, social relationships are emphasized. There's also enterprising, which are activities involving influence or even leadership. And lastly, there is conventional, which is more structured, organized tasks, uh, strict rules, and details are also focused on. Do you feel like you resonate with any of those traits more so than others?
I can't remember the name of it, but I think the second one that you were saying.
Investigative enjoys analyzing research, intellectual.
Yeah, yeah, that, and then oh my gosh, what was the fourth one?
One, two, three. Social, helping, interacting with others, social relationships. Then there's enterprising activities.
Yeah, so like the social one, yes, but that in terms of clientele, not
Right.
like coworkers, I guess.
Oh,
Like,
so maybe not too open or not, you don't have a preference for working with a team versus more so you, like in isolation.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I definitely prefer to work alone or at least have like my own specific job duties or specific clientele. Like I don't necessarily like to collaborate on my work.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty key, like that is a key piece of information to have. So that way, as you're kind of moving towards what you really want to do, you kind of know what to avoid, like just off the bat. If there's like team efforts involved or not.
Yeah, for sure. That's always like a question I ask in interviews is I'm like, am I going to be expected to collaborate with other people based upon my workload? Or am I just like in a team of people and then we all have our own specific,
Right.
you know,
Okay.
like
Yeah.
caseloads, let's say.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's good. What I think could be potentially really helpful for you is this assessment called the ONET Profiler. It's an online resource where essentially it's like asking you different questions that identify potential careers based off your interests, your preferences, your personal values, things like that, your experience.
Mhm.
And I think that could be really helpful just to kind of narrow down some of the things that we just talked about, which clearly you have some awareness of already.
Yeah, somewhat just because of like work experience and just being in school too. Like when group projects came up, I'd just be like, no, I don't really wanna do this, like, I would rather just do the group project, take all of that work on myself
Right.
and like collaborate with other people.
Well, that's good self-awareness on your part.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, and this also can serve as like a useful resource. It has really cool, detailed information about different paths that people have taken to all types of different careers, and as well as like institutions that offer said programs and their accreditations and all that kind of stuff. So it's really neat website. That I think could really help you out.
cool, yeah, no, I love it.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely send it to you. Um, so as we're kind of getting towards the close here, do you feel like you have useful strategies as far as like gathering information about different programs that you might be interested? Do you feel confident in that area right now?
I think so. I guess like the main thing that I've been struggling with when I've been like trying to communicate with different masters programs counselors
Yeah,
is trying to figure out what programs that are master's programs can lead into potential PhD society down the line.
okay,
Because that's something that I've kind of been having difficulty. And then I guess the advice that I've been given is just looking at specific PhD programs and seeing what their requirements are in comparison. But that can just become super tedious because there's tons of
Right.
programs out there, so it's
Right.
hard to narrow that down. And it's not like I want to pick like a PsyD or PhD program right now,
right,
to jump into and who knows how long, it could be like 5 or 10 years. I don't want to make that decision now. So I think that's what I'm struggling with the most.
okay, no, yeah. And I think that is an area that the ONET profiler like website could be helpful in, because again, it lists different institutions that focus on the programs that you're interested in and like what processes like that entails, as well as maybe even determining like what you're figuring out right now, determining if by taking that master's program that can seamlessly lead into a PhD program.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, so that could be like a strategy that you could potentially utilize.
yeah, definitely.
What about work-life balance? Do you feel like you're going to be able to maintain that? How do you feel about
It's probably gonna be more of a work school balance rather than.
Okay, right. Yeah, that is true. Work, school,
You know?
balance. Let's cross that out.
Work school balance,
Yeah.
because that's really gonna be what I'm balancing for probably like 2 years or so. And then making sure that, like my mental health stays as healthy as it can while trying to accomplish all of this.
Right, it is important.
Yeah, so I didn't do too well with that when I was an undergrad.
Mhm.
Um,
What are some
So-
things you can do differently this time around? Now that you have that useful experience of what that's like to avoid that this time.
I think just scheduling time, being like, okay, every Sunday, let's say, is like my day to like do what I want to do.
Right. Okay.
Like hang out with friends, have those types of connections outside of school and work.
Mhm.
I think that's something that'll be really helpful because I caught myself just like working, or doing schoolwork,
Yeah.
working
Right. It's
Like-
work. Yeah.
all the time.
Right.
Like it'd be Sunday, I'd wake up and I'd start doing homework. So that's something that I'm gonna try to not do. One thing I did do well when I was an undergrad is once it hit like 7 or 8 p.m., like that I was done
Okay.
for the day. So I would never like I pulled
Drew
an
the
all
line.
nighter once.
Right,
I
okay.
drew the line. So I
Okay.
had like that boundary with school and work. So I think I did that well, but I was just doing too much. So,
Right. Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. Okay. So then kind of creating like a little bit of a schedule for you, a daily, weekly schedule where you're kind of allotted time, socializing versus schoolwork time.
Yeah, definitely. I think online school could potentially help with that, just because I'm not gonna have to be commuting somewhere
Right.
to go to school,
Right.
which is what I was doing. I could go through my coursework, at my own leisure, essentially, outside of due dates, but that'll just help pace it anyway.
Right, of course, yeah, yeah. Do you feel confident in your ability with like technology,
Yeah, I think,
navigating?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
that's good. Oh, good. Well, that kind of takes us to like the end of our session here. Do you have any questions for me?
Um, I guess my question, if I'm to ask any, is how did you know you wanted to be a counselor or a therapist, since that's kind of potentially the path I'm gonna go on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I've just always been interested in helping people directly, in getting to know people just progressively over time. That face-to-face interaction is something that I've always enjoyed. So I just figured it seems like the field for me. And I just haven't really looked back since. It's been a good fit for me. I feel like. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing.
Oh yeah. Well, I appreciate you coming in today. So I'm gonna go ahead and send you the information to that assessment. And overall, it definitely feels like you're in a really good spot as far as figuring out what your next steps are. It's just maybe utilizing some strategies to kind of help inch closer towards that.
Yeah, I think I just need to spend more time like sinking my teeth into it, essentially,
Right.
and making sure, you know, that it checks all of the boxes or most of them, what I'm willing to compromise on, what I'm not.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But thank you for
Great.
your time and for sending those links. I really appreciate it.
Of course, my pleasure.